So what we're going to do here today, Monty and I are going to tag team. So if you don't know us, I'm Isaac. Monty's got the better beard, co-owners of Abound Social. I always like to get a beard joke in there. What we're going to talk about today is the leadership's influence on your brand influence. I'm going to tell a little tiny bit of a story why we're wanting to talk about this today. Usually we're talking about sales and marketing, and we're getting we're hashing out just all kinds of things. Not very often do we move into how the human dynamic impacts your marketing initiatives. And it's really a really big deal. So the main thing, sorry, I've got a cough. Don't worry, we have the magic of editing later. So the main kind of thing that when you leave today that we want you to remember is this, okay? If you're going to remember one thing, remember this one sentence. For LinkedIn organic marketing campaigns to work, you need leadership buy-in. You really do. We'll show you some examples of how that's true. We'll talk about the death spiral of doom that happens in real life when you don't have leadership buy-in. That's the main thing that I want you to take away here. And just to bring a little bit of clarity, what we mean when we say LinkedIn organic marketing campaigns, because there's a lot of things that you can do with marketing, right? So we're mostly talking about a brand's marketing initiatives. It's largely, this is going to play out in the material that a brand is sharing, right? So not so much paid. It's going to be more your social, your kind of organic social media, but you need leadership buy-in. So let's start with the good here. Here are three examples, and I'll kind of let Monty share on why these are three screenshots, three examples, three different companies. They all have strong leadership. They have leadership buy-in, and it totally transforms measurable KPIs. Mm-hmm. So Monty, if you want to kind of chime in, since this is more your wheelhouse on some trends you see with these companies, and then we'll go into what happens when it's not there.
Yeah, so I also want to clarify what we're talking about here is predominantly LinkedIn. So in addition to that, we're also talking about company page content and what we want your teams, or what leadership should be trying to get their teams involved in around your content. So because you can drive so much traffic, like 50%, I think I've seen a recent statistic that 50% or more of all website visits are driven from social media. And I think that 50% actually may be from LinkedIn, that all social media traffic from LinkedIn equates to 50% of your website traffic from social platforms. Now, from Isaac's and my website, we can push, we're over 1,200 visits a day. A large portion of that comes from LinkedIn. And a lot of that has to do with some of the things that you're looking at right here. So if you take a look at the analytics from these three companies, these range from 480 followers on the far right, all the way up to maybe about 1,800, a little over 1,800 on the far left. So one of the things that you should look at is the unique visitors to the company page, and then the custom button clicks. So, and these range from, they're all various different industries, some that you may not consider would do very well at all. Like on the right-hand side, that's coming from a lawn and landscaping company. So you're still, if you can get your team involvement, you can do some pretty significant things with your company page content. But it absolutely does require that. Isaac, if you'll go to the next slide. So this is company page content. And lots of people tell us you can't get engagement with company page content. You can't You can't get views. Nobody cares about company page content. Not true. Here's 2 examples for you. This is over the past 2 weeks. Now, does every post do this? No, that it doesn't. But and a lot of it has changed since the algorithm has changed, but it's also coming back. And we knew that it would do that. It's just been taking some time for LinkedIn to start to flush out the algorithm, what it's doing. But company page content is now beginning to be pushed again. And you can see these 2 posts, 22 comments on the first, only 10 comments on the second. Now, I'll tell you that half of those comments are from their employees. Okay, so when your employees engage your content, it then initiates that algorithm, and it allows LinkedIn will begin to push that out to your market. Okay, so it's not just through the followers of the page. So much of it has to do with who actually engages it and when. One of the best ways to do that is to get your employees involved. They absolutely will not do that if, as a leadership team, you are not leading by example. So, Isaac, I'm going to let you go to the next screen.
Yeah. So this is what happens. We call this the endless spiral of doom. Okay. And if you've been in sales and marketing, you have seen this probably, but you've never maybe recognized the pattern. So without leadership buy-in, specifically related to what we're talking about, where the leaders are like, you know what, we're going to do what we say, but we're going to do what we tell our people to do. Without that leadership buy-in, what happens is, okay, this is what happens. Number 1, LinkedIn marketing campaign kickoff happens and everyone's so excited. Oh, wow, these campaigns are going to be great. Look at all this amazing material we have queued up. Woo, we're going to take over the world and get rich, right? Everyone's super excited. Leadership says, hey, everyone, go engage with our brand's content on LinkedIn. Let's do it. Let's have fun. Woo. And then what happens, because there's no leadership buy-in, is the leadership, even though they're saying, go do this, it's just lip service. When the rubber hits the road, leadership does not engage with their own brand's social content. And here's the deal, is it kind of it's just easy to not do that. It's not that they're trying to be, a hypocrite or whatever. They get busy. They got a lot of responsibilities. It's not part of their daily routine. But the leadership, without that real true buy-in, they don't engage themselves with the material. And then what happens is the people that they lead, they observe this lack of engagement, right? So the people start to think, well, my boss isn't doing it. It's not worth their time. Is it really worth my time? I'll maybe start to put it on the back burner. And eventually what happens is that the brand excitement begins to erode. So people they're not excited about their own company, right? This is the easiest win. If you want to have super fans of your company, the easiest win is your own employees. So the brand excitement begins to erode because you don't have leadership buy-in. And then the brand advocacy begins to erode because it's like they're just not excited to talk about it because they're not excited. And then what happens is the LinkedIn marketing campaigns that you were so super duper excited about, like a month or 2 before, they're getting no engagement, right? Which means that no engagement turns into no brand awareness, turns into no leads. And then eventually your revenue plateaus, marketing staff get fired and sales keeps their jobs. That is always what happens. So everyone gets excited, marketing campaigns go out, no one engages. They're like, oh crap, is this really worth it? I don't know. We're not seeing any ROI. Well, we don't have the money that we thought we'd have. So let's let go of marketing. Sales are on the front line. So marketing gets canned, sales keeps their jobs. The leadership team stays the same. They never had buy-in anyways. A year later, the marketing position is rehired. Someone new with a new edgy, trendy idea that gets our audience a little bit more. They're rehired, but since the leadership has not changed, it's going to repeat. It's just going to repeat. And then that's why it's called the endless spiral of doom. And yes, of course, you need good content, you need engaging content, but really the missing ingredient a lot of times is that the human beings, flesh and blood human beings that are leaders, they don't have true buy-in, and their actions show that, and it affects the people's actions that they lead, and that affects their campaigns, no doubt. And so we did this poll here. I know there are so many polls, and so I'm trying to be tasteful about it, but we did a couple polls this last 2 weeks, and this is part of the reason why I was like, man, Monty, we've got to talk about this, because we talk about content quite a bit. But 2 polls, I aggregated the data, and the poll was like, we were trying to use LinkedIn to hack LinkedIn, right? So as a company page, where did you see this post, and like, how do you engage with the brand? So it was 4 options. You see the company page post, and you in the newsfeed, and you follow the company, or you see so here, we're right here, newsfeed, follow the company page, gray news side of the newsfeed, a contact engaged with it. So not following the company page, not following the keyword, just saw someone engage with it. Green is newsfeed, I follow the hashtag, and then yellow is notification. And what I did is I removed our own employees from these numbers, because we tell our employees, go out there and engage. Like we do this. We tell our team go, but it also, I think, skews the poll results. So we removed them, and this was the takeaway. Half of our company page's views on LinkedIn was because someone engaged with our material. And a lot of the times, the majority of the engagement is coming from our own staff, right? Isn't that huge? I honestly expected this blue here, I follow the company page, to be a lot larger. So you hear a lot of times, like, company pages don't matter. Totally not true. Of course they matter. But what happens is, the larger your brand gets, the more important your company page gets, the more followers you get, and the more followers you get, the more opportunity you have for engagement. But the big takeaway here is that large or small, no matter how many followers you have, the audience who's best positioned for brand advocacy is your own staff. It's your own staff. And your staff needs to be led by leadership. It really, really does affect, in real life, your marketing campaigns. So what the heck should we do? And I'm going to let Monty kind of take it from here, because Monty's more in charge of all of our content, and he's interacting with leadership at marketing departments and stuff. So Monty, let me know if you need the slide change at all. I'm here for you.
Sounds great. So some advice for leadership, either if you're working with companies from their marketing standpoint, or if you are a leader on the call and you're wondering, okay, how can we get people involved with this? Number 1, engage yourself. Okay, so just like kids pick up more what we do than what we say. So absolutely engage the company page content yourself. You have to create a workflow for yourself on the social media channels for when you're going to be there, how you're going to engage it. It doesn't have to take all day, and it doesn't have to be a huge disruptor. You need to get your teams organized. So the best way to do that is set a schedule for when company page posts are going to be coming out. This follows along with Make It Simple. So make sure that your teams know when company pages will be posted. They don't have to do it immediately, but if they know that it's out there, then allow them the time at some point during the day, go in and engage the post with a like and a comment. So one of the best ways, and when we find that companies actually do the best, both from a leadership standpoint and from an employee standpoint, is when they get their team some training. So most companies and most employees may feel like they understand LinkedIn, but very few do. So just some basic understanding of what the algorithm does, how it works, why you should engage your content, how it pushes the content out to both followers and through your industry. Why you want to do that is really important. Get your team some training, and that will increase their output and their engagement with your content significantly. Another way is definitely incentivize your teams. So there's all kinds of ways that you can go about this. There's been some shared in the chat here, and we're going to talk about more. You can create contests. You can interview employees. We can also do things with tie your metrics for who engages, when they engage, with some, like, you can do pizza parties at the end of the month. You can do all kinds of different things. I'd like to save that portion for our panel when we're talking about it. But the next thing is hire people who actually want to engage on social media. It should be a part of your hiring process. If somebody is absolutely opposed to being on social media, that doesn't mean you shouldn't hire them. But you do want to lean towards people who are going to actively help influence your brand. You're looking for people who are excited about being part of your company. You want to create a culture of that. So the more culture you can create around, we're all in this together, we're all rowing in the same direction. Part of that is, let's get involved with the marketing and the branding of our company and make sure that gets distributed out everywhere. You should be proud of getting involved with content. And we want your input, by the way. That's not in there. But one of the best ways to get for leaders to draw people into getting involved with their content is to just ask employees, what would you like to see us post? Yep. What kind of content would make sense, both from a sales standpoint and from a marketing standpoint? So many companies have marketing teams, and they're like islands. They're islands out there. They don't get involved with the sales a lot. They don't get involved with employees. They're the experts that kind of sit up on top of the mountain, and it's whatever they say goes. The more you can get teams involved and get their input, the better you're going to be, which is why in the chat, people have been saying, yeah, interview employees. Absolutely. Make it fun. Don't make it drudgery. Don't make this something that employees feel like they're forced to do or have to do. If you do that, it will end it. They'll do it for a period of time, and then it'll be a constant battle between leadership and your employees to force them to try and do something over and over. Interview them, find out why they would want to engage or why they wouldn't want to engage, and then adjust based on the responses that you're having. Really listen to the reasons that they have, and then make those changes based on the information that they give you. One thing that happens quite often that we have found with companies that we work with is teams tend to fizzle out. So depending on your post cadence, how often you're putting content out there, they can, as Isaac said a little earlier, they can be really excited about doing this for a short period of time. First month, hey, great, we're all commenting, we're all posting. Then all of a sudden, it's only a few of us are commenting and posting. And then I don't want to do that anymore. So teams tend to fizzle out if leadership isn't doing all of these things that I've been talking about ahead of time and consistently. So you have to continue to make it fun. You have to continue to bring your employees into the analytics and to show them what their involvement is doing. When people see things growing and it's their company and they're getting a paycheck from you, then they're more apt to be involved when they actually get to see the results of something. So once you begin to achieve the results of these things, celebrate those victories. Make sure that your team gets rewarded for their efforts. Yes, they get a paycheck, but this is something on top of their job that you've hired them to do. So make sure that you reward them in some way, however that may be, and we can discuss that on the panel. Always praise your team. If somebody is engaging the company page content, always let them know that you appreciate it. Anytime that you can get a chance, when somebody shares the content from your company page into their own personal profiles, make sure you're telling them that they're doing a great job. Whether you use Slack or some other employee engagement messaging tool, make sure that it's distributed out to everybody that that person is doing a great job, so that they all see it. They all see that so-and-so got praised for this. I want to do that too. And communicate ongoing. So the more you can get your teams involved through these, implementing these things, keep open communication with your teams. They're going to feel appreciated. They're going to feel like they want to do this more, and they will. And so that's, we'll save more conversation around this to get the panel involved. Let's go to the next one. And we're into panelists. So now that we've been talking about this, it actually turned out great timing. We're pretty much right into our panelist discussion now anyway. So for our panelists, these are the questions that we have for you today. Feel free to chime in. What are some creative ways to get employees involved without forcing them to do so? And if you have worked in this, please feel free to jump in, and let's get it started.
Monty, I have a question before we get into those.
Sure.
You kind of implied this, but not actually said it. Do you think the algorithm takes into account the hierarchy level of the employees that engage, and that when they see the C-level people, they reward the post because they want C-levels active and engaging on LinkedIn, but they struggle to get them there?
That's a good question, Crystal.
It's a great question. And honestly, Crystal, we have not tested that. But
that could be an interesting test.
It would be a fantastic test. I would not be surprised if that actually is the case. We used to be, before the algorithm update in August, we know that if we were able to get as many employees the more comments we could get early, the better that post would do. Now, because of the algorithm change and the slow drip effect, it doesn't have to be all at once, but you do still need that early engagement.
Yeah.
And
because
I think
it's just the view count you guys get for the total number of followers on that page is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's and we've been able to see those kind of results with multiple companies. So much of it is within the industry, making sure that you're posting content that's actually engageable.
Right.
One of the mistakes that we find so often that company pages make is they create posts that what we call our website content. Right? It's just a continuation of their website that's just information based alone, and it may serve a purpose. We feel like at Abound that you post on social media to engage your audience.
Right.
And the more engagement that you can get to it, you can actually get those views. And then because 95% of your market is not there to buy today, and you're trying to get your brand in front of them as often as possible, you definitely want to get as many views as you possibly can.
Judy Hayes has a question.
I had actually some observations. This is excellent.
Yeah, please do.
Insights, guys, really. Well, a couple of things that I've noticed. One is in one of my clients who has a team, we did an assessment of their sort of a grading score. And I think Mike O'Neill had come up with this grid. It's like a 10-point rating to show what is your visibility on LinkedIn in terms of your team. And it was kind of like a heat map. We came up with 10 criteria, and then we looked at the team across the board. So we identified who the players are, so to speak. And then from that, we said, okay, are they client facing? or are they in BD, business development?
Yeah, that's really good.
What's their role? And so we identified, okay, so here are obviously you want leadership, scoring pretty high. But then if there weren't team members that are client facing, then we knew who to work with. And if there were ones that, that we could get to advocate that. So that was the first thing, is identifying them. The second thing is, and I learned this from doing public relations, is when we would send out a press release, we would issue to the leadership of the organization talking points. Okay. And so, because sometimes people, they just don't know what to say.
Yeah,
and they're
absolutely.
afraid, or they'll say something stupid, or they'll just do a like, or, so the fear, I think, holds people back. So I think if leadership, talking points, and it's usually like a summary statement or a pull quote from the article. So I think giving them something to make it easy. Here's what we're posting this week. Here are some talking points suggested, feel free to make it your own. So that's another thing, overcome the fear. So identify the players, overcome the fear. And then the third thing is, I think, and I don't know who put that in there, but gamifying it, I think, is kind of fun. Because if it's like, what's in it for me? Why am I doing this? And sometimes people just don't get that, hey, if you're active on LinkedIn, you're helping yourself, but it's like, so maybe gamifying it is another way to, because everyone likes to be incentivized. It's like, why am I doing this? It's not my company. I don't care about this, so that kind of thing. So that's all. But hey, guys, this is excellent. Really good stuff.
Well, you made some great points there, Judy, and I totally agree with you. Often when and we typically do all of the posting for our clients. So we will say, if you're part of the sales team, use this post in this manner. Consider these questions, so to speak. And if you want to share it into your own content, part of our process is, as we are creating engaging content, we in essence are kind of teaching the employees how they can get their own engagement through their own posts, right? So when we're doing that and we're sharing exactly what you say, use it in this manner, consider sharing a story around this topic, so on and so forth. That's tremendously helpful for their sales teams. Then the marketing teams, we do the same thing. We're continually trying to get them to find new ways to create engaging content. So that was excellent.
You ever feel like a dentist?
Pulling teeth.
Plugging holes?
Yes.
Vivica, panelist Vivica Hess.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, as I'm watching the scroll of chat here, the whole thing, as they did at Instagram, where you kind of handed it over to a client or a company to kind of take over the account. We can essentially sort of use that model, which Christine had talked about, and Judy now too. Really, really good points. I don't have much to add, because when I raised my hand, all this other good stuff popped up, but basically handing over the mic. I think, which is what Mary said too. And others. But for the lawyers, law firms, like my particular audience, they tend to be quite reserved and quite cautious. And so for them, it's really a matter of trying to not necessarily convince, but get buy-in to, let's show some short videos or some content from behind the curtain. That is, that personalization and humanization, if you will, of the law industry removes some of the stigma that many people sort of attach to law firms and sort of the faceless entity. And so that's key to get that. But not all attorneys, not all, from the top up here are going to buy in. And so there has to be some sort of open-mindedness and receptivity to it too.
Viveka, that works for all industries. People want to know who the CEO is, who the VP of sales, the COO, the CIO, making people more relatable. I always say H to H, human to human. Right?
Yep,
just becoming
absolutely.
more relatable, that helps with your brand. And, Monty, Isaac, you're spot on. If the leaders aren't doing it, why the hell should I? Right? It
But
needs to come from to come from the top down. But how do you get that buy-in, especially when they're outsourcing it?
There's a very short window for partners and managing partners to buy into it. And then quickly they have to see some sort of results.
Oh, that's good
once
insight.
they do, they dive in even deeper. And once I have the full buy-in from the top of a firm, for example, then it kind of can trickle down. I'm done.
No, that's a great, I think that's a fantastic insight, is if the senior leadership team is kind of half there and they decide to pull the trigger, when they see an ROI, that's what I think tips the scale. And they're like, yep, I'm on board.
Right.
But you kind of need it though beforehand. Can I ask the panelists if your leadership's not there, and let's actually make it a little bit more specific and say the leadership of like your marketing department or your sales department, like the lowest hanging fruit of leadership in a big org that should have the time and it should be relevant to their job. They're in charge of sales and marketing, for crying out loud. If though that leadership team, if they're not mentally, emotionally there with the buy-in, can you get them there? What does it take? Any thoughts?
I mean, I start with really simple things from their profile first and showing them if we kind of optimize their profile, a lot of things that busy attorneys just don't even know about, don't even think about. I start with super simple. Let's look at your SSI number. Attorneys love numbers. Once we work on their profile, the SSI number goes up. They see themselves in a percentage in the top tier of attorneys. I mean, that's sort of, I mean, jokingly, I say, it really caters to their ego as well. So that's kind of a first step. Just
get them a win.
Scratch the surface. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Vivica, I think you do have to show them wins.
Even small wins, just something. Yep. Yeah.
I think a big part of this, we have a question on there, is training enough? I think that training is always, you need more training, not less, because I think a lot of people have their own perceptions of social media and why they should be on it or why not. I held a position with a company for a time, and the leader was absolutely opposed to social media, hated it with a passion. That was all based on Facebook. He hated Facebook. He hated, how people share, but he had no clue really about the difference between Facebook and LinkedIn. So being able to show the difference between the platforms, educate your leadership about how this actually will help achieve bottom line goals for your company, I think is probably one of the best ways to do that. And you have to ask the right questions to discover why they are resistant to having their team involved. For instance, if they think it's a time waste, they've hired their employees to do a specific thing, and they want their employees focused on doing that specific thing every day. They don't want them distracted by social media. Well, we're not proposing that you now change their job to spending 2 hours on LinkedIn every day, searching and engaging with people that really don't matter to building their business. This could be a process that takes your teams anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes a day, and that's it. So it doesn't take a lot of time. So educating your teams on how much time, or your leadership rather, on how much time they can and should be taking, I think is very important as well.
One idea, and this is if all else fails to get leadership to buy in, have their assistants do it for them. I mean, I work with a lot of professionals in finance who just simply will not do it. And so they can delegate that engagement to their assistant and everyone else. It seems like the leader's doing it. I mean, that's what really happens across many corporations. Or when you see the CEOs, it's not the CEOs, because I've been an executive assistant to a CEO. It's not them; it's their assistant. And if they just won't buy in and won't do it themselves, that's how you can fix it. Just tell them they have to delegate it.
Yeah. Now I think it's good to have them delegate it as long as their communication with their teams is to be involved in, that they're excited about it, and they're, if that's not there, then
right.
even doing that, they'll eventually know, oh, well, he's just using his, secretary.
No, they'll have to talk the talk, but and I mean, the great thing with your executive admin is that they know how you speak and how you communicate and how you say things. So they are in the best position to duplicate you in that scenario.
Let me add one thing, and then we're going to move into open Q&A, and Pete and Bez, I'll give you priority. And then when we do move into open Q&A, also panelists, feel free to chime in. In my experience with when you have mid-level management, so like that's the kind of caliber of leadership where you're not talking about the CEO, but you're talking about marketing director, sales director. When we've encountered they're like, not really super excited about it, there's that resistance there. Usually it's because there's like two hurdles you have to overcome to really, I think, get someone's mind to the switch to flip. And it's the individual benefits and the collective benefits. I think that they need to see both. And it's usually one of those two is there and one's not. And so you can kind of press it if you're an agency or if you're internally, whatever, you can maybe try and figure out where the resistance is. So like you could say, if they're like, I don't want to share company content to my personal profile. I've heard that 100 times. And then I'm just sitting here thinking, wait a minute, you are a person in your 30s with a career ahead of you. You're telling me you don't want thousands of people in your industry to know who you are? Is that not enough opportunity for you? Like, come on. So you've got to communicate that personal, individual benefit. And if if they get that, then it's the collective. Is that for the whole team? Does that benefit the team? Absolutely it does. So it just kind of want to leave it there. There's the individual and there's a collective benefit, and just figure out where the resistance is. If you're needing to persuade whoever it is in that leadership position, if you need to persuade them, maybe press those two avenues and see where the resistance is, and then see if you can overcome it. All right. Okay. Let's move into the open Q&A. Thank you everyone for your patience. Let's do this here. There's so much going on in chat, which is great. I haven't seen any questions just because I've been busy talking. So let's do this. Pete, Bez, and Kareem, I'm going to let you go one at a time. Can you please keep the questions, just keep it under 30 seconds if you can. Pete, why don't you go first?
Sure. So what if your experience is the complete opposite? I mean, we've got leadership buy-in. So if you look at our company pages, that's where all the activities come in from, the likes, the comments from the leadership team we have within our organization. However, that's as far as it's going. So I don't know if it's a content issue or maybe a topic for another one of these mastermind groups, but that's where we're stopping. We're getting all the leadership buy-in, and then it just goes nowhere, and it doesn't get out to the wide world, net.
I would probably say, Pete, it probably is a content issue. So what I would recommend is go back, have your teams review the content, take a look at the comments that your employees are posting. All right. So if it's all closed, if they're just making statements, if they are asking closed questions, then the content needs to improve. So what you want to do is treat it kind of like your personal. One of the biggest mistakes that companies make is they don't treat it like it's like a personal brand, right? So the engagement is going to be few and far between. You need to create content that actually drives a response and that gets engagement from your target market. So just review that and see what ways you can push the engagement, and then help your team create comments that in addition are engaging.
Another culprit, Pete, there could be, if your leadership, their networks that are going to tend to see their engagement, if their networks are a mismatch from your brand's target audience, that could be a thing too. Just to take it to an example extreme, I mean, if everyone in your network works at McDonald's and now you're working for another company, like it's a bit of a mismatch, and so the engagement might not happen. So what Monty said, plus that could be a culprit as well.
Let me throw one more thing in there too. Algorithm is key, right? There's always the algorithm issues. So it may be when they post, at the time that they post, so on and so forth. So there's could be some algorithm issues that you're facing as well.
Okay.
Any other panelists want to chime in on that before we move on to Bez? No? Okay, good question, Pete. So we got Bez, Kareem, and then we'll do Tommy. And I'm just going on the order. I see the hands raised. Bez, 30 seconds or less.
My question is for Christine in the chat. I think all of us in this today have come up with great ideas, but I think I want to really hear what is the secret sauce Christine has. She's taken ideas, handed the mic to the employees, and she gave a little, just a little scratch of the surface how they make it work. So would you allow Christine to share, because I'm really intrigued what she put in the chat. It looks like the secret sauce.
I didn't see what was in the chat. Christine, are you able to do that and keep it short? Yep,
Yeah.
Go for it.
Actually, I'm just a salesperson on the sales team. But one of the reasons I came to this company was because of the ownership and leadership buy-in for content, especially on LinkedIn. Not only does our owner participate every day and is always commenting, and he comes in on our daily sales meetings and everybody talks about LinkedIn and pushes LinkedIn, but his wife, who has a degree in marketing, runs our marketing team, and she handles all of the content and the ghostwriters. She comes on to our sales meetings and we all talk about what we're reading in our industry, what are hot topics. She has ghostwriters write that comment for us. We review it, we approve it. It's posted as if we have written it. And then everyone in the company is tasked with sharing that or commenting on that. So we track all of our content on Monday.com, just like we do projects every single day. So it is part of our workflow. It's talked about every single day. Everyone is on LinkedIn every single day.
That's fantastic.
Nice. Once the culture is there,
but you
once
mentioned sorry.
Go ahead. No, Bez, go ahead.
But you mentioned something about how when you hand the mic over to the employees, how do you rally around? I mean, that's where I wanted to hear about, because it's great you got the leadership to buy in. That's super important, but you do something else that I haven't heard many people talk about.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
You put in the chat that your marketing team rallies around the employee, helps them with their idea, because they're the ones with the ideas.
For me as a salesperson in the industry that I'm like right now, supply chain is a big deal. Supply chain disruptions. And so I bring that to the table, and our marketing team researches it and will ghostwrite things for me about that, and then turn around and do a blog post that looks like I have written it, because it's something that my clients are going to engage with, because it's supply chain issues. And we each have a bucket on Monday.com where we just, whenever we run into something like, oh, this is a hot topic, we just start posting it in Monday.com under our name. And then our marketing team grabs a hold of that and starts to do research and drive the content behind that. So I really want to say, if you're not providing the content, me as a salesperson, I cannot sit here. I've tried it. I've been expected to do it at other companies, and it takes forever for me to write my own content. But if somebody does it for me, great. I will push it and engage all day long.
I think that's absolutely true.
Christine, that is literally why Monty's company and my company merged, is because sales and marketing, they need to play in the same sandbox, but it's just different skill sets. Totally.
They cannot be
so
siloed.
Cool. So cool to hear that you're doing that. I love it so much. Okay, let's move on, just because I want to make sure that everybody gets time. Kareem, 30 seconds or less, bud.
Sure.
Rock it out.
That's actually less of a question. It's more of a quick comment for everyone here. Just something I've observed. If you want a good example of this exact theme, this is a good time to check out Barstool Sports, mainly because if you look at their structure, the founder, Dave Portnoy, is running a lot of content himself. And so as a result, all of his workers buy in, because they realize he's not asking them to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. And that's why all of them are content like making machines. So if you want a really good example of this theme, check out that brand, because they do it very, very well. And you could probably learn a lot of lessons from that.
Yep.
Just learn. Yeah. David's good at getting his Twitter suspended every once in a while. Thank you. That's good feedback. Thanks, Kareem. Tommy Nolan, 30 seconds or less.
Hey guys, great content. Thank you. And just myself, I'm not sure if Christine is with your company or not. I'm just a sales guy with a different company, and obviously you guys caught me to come to this today, but it's been I think the pieces you gave to me are unbelievable. I just have a question. Would it make sense to script and have a 15, 30-second video posted alongside of, or pushing out to my network, which is pretty big, and I've been on LinkedIn since it opened. I'm old. Actually, I'm 53 today. So
happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We're not going to sing the song, though.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I don't want. So what do you guys think about video pushing? How does that kind of work into what you guys are thinking? Just the ideas of getting the engagement of seniors. I'm a director of sales North America. It's not senior, it's sort of mid-level-ish. And I've got a lot of stuff coming at us from my first shift over in India. So I'm interested in a couple of those points.
I'll
learning more.
I'll jump into that real quick. I think personalization of your brand is done through your employees, and I think that is an excellent way to go. If you can create videos from your team, either sharing stories about the brand, stories about what you guys do, how your brand has affected or solved a problem for somebody, even just sharing about how long you've been with the company and what you do within the company, I think are all fantastic things to do. You can share that both to your personal profiles, and you can do an employee feature, like a monthly feature to your company page. Now, those can all be video driven, where the marketing person is just interviewing your staff member, whatever it may be. It just shows, this well-known statement, people do business with people, they don't do business with brands. But if you create engaging content and you show your brand to be personalized through your people, they will. That's the best way to do it.
You guys have any thoughts about, does that help with the algorithm? Is there certain pieces of video that we should consider using?
No, video doesn't do very well, honestly, in the algorithm. It's actually one of the worst. It's very hard to get. It's hard to get views, but that doesn't mean that it's not good strategy. Okay, so as you're building up your follower account on your page, and as your sales teams are engaging and interacting with people, and they go out to your company page and they view that, that's where they'll see that. And that lives there all the time, right? So it lives in your video section on your company page. So even having them have the ability to go to those videos and just see post after post of, hey, here's our team members. Why do you work here? What do you love about the company? What's your favorite thing about, and share a story about how you've solved a problem. It doesn't mean don't do it just because the algorithm doesn't necessarily favor it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. I think the keywords piece was like critical, because I sit here and I should be engaging in all these posts and I don't. And anyway.
For sure. It's like me telling my kids, clean your room. And they walk in my room and they're like, what the heck is going on in here, Dad? Why should I clean my room? You bum. Okay. Jordan, this is the last hand that I see raised. So Jordan, if you can keep it under 30 seconds, please, you are live.
I guess my only question was, when you guys were talking about like making posts and like getting in, like having like people engaged, not leaving like open-ended questions, is it a good idea for like on the post, maybe like leave like a sort of question at the end for the audience to answer? Is that a good idea?
Oh, yep. That's a great question. Great comment.
Yes, it is. Because what you're trying to do is draw out engagement from those that are going to see the post, right? A lot of times, even with my own personal content, the way you really spin up engagement is to ask questions of the people that are commenting. So if you can ask a question right out of the gate, that, you've got the post there. Hopefully that's an engaging content post. But then the question that you pose in there can also be engaging, and you can a lot of times create lengthy conversations off of just a question that you post into the comments.
Oh, nice to know my copywriting skills here have kind of come in, because I was like, oh, leaving with a question usually works pretty well.
It does. It's a great idea.
All right. Thank you.
So we're just about up on the hour. I'm not seeing anything that in the chat's kind of slowed down Any final questions? Tommy Nolan, did you just raise your hand again?
Sorry, just real quick. What do you guys think about the whole hashtagging craze? And like at one point, my last stay, we were doing that and hammering away at it. And then I've been reading that that's insane. Don't put too much of that. And, you know, where does that play into
let's maybe do a quick answer on that, but we do want to keep it on point with the leadership buy-in. So any quick comments on that?
I can give a quick answer to that. On company pages, no more than 5 hashtags.
Very cool. Good question, Tommy. Vivica?
Yeah, I just want to say, keep an eye on what's going on, in the real world, so to speak. I mean, I almost lost an account with a fairly large law firm back east because the managing partner said, well, I mean, they were so tainted by the news about Frances Haugen and the Facebook whistleblowing. And they said, look what happened there. And, look what they're doing behind the scenes. And they were so influenced by that. So I really had to work hard to say, okay, first off, Facebook, LinkedIn, very different animals. So they are very, they're influenced by what's happening in the world. So stay ahead with that and sort of address any objections before they even raise it to make sure that there's a really basic understanding of the differences and how, how we're going to position them. I don't know how that translated into their sort of negative thinking, but I mean, it does. Anything on social media that happens in the real world is going to influence people online and when you're working with them.
That is so true.
Very good point. Let me say something before we close on this too, is that for everybody that's still left here, on our event page that we have each week, if you come back, feel free and post a comment because you can go out there still. They haven't changed it or updated it just yet, I believe. Feel free and post a comment, ask a question, or give us some input on what you would like to see in these masterminds. We're totally open to suggestions for this too, which would be very helpful. So if you have those, feel free to get involved with us or just message Isaac or myself personally.
You can just do a reply to the email that goes out with the topic reminder. And then I get those personally, so that's fine. Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap. Look at that. 2 minutes before the hour. Everyone, hope you all learned some valuable life lessons. Go out there and be leaders.
Hey, Isaac,
leaders.
We do this every week.
Thanks, guys.
We do this
every week.
Yes, we sure do.
Yep.
All right, cool, man.
Thank
all right,
you.
very cool.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you for the time.
All right,
See y'all
everybody.
later. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Take
panelists.
care.
Appreciate
Have a
your
good
time.
day.